Welcome to Kanerika's podcast, The Digital Shift. Um, Imagine losing 10% of your revenue last month, and your multi-million-dollar data system can only give you one incredibly unhelpful answer, which is basically just because people stop buying.
Right, which is completely useless.
Exactly. I mean, for the last decade, businesses have been living in exactly that scenario. We've been completely drowning in useless facts, just collecting, terabytes of information, and yet we're totally starving for actual direction.
Yeah, it's like having a giant library but no index.
Precisely. But the landscape is shifting radically right now. We are finally stepping out of this era of passive information overload and into a reality where data actually speaks, predicts, and, well, acts on its own.
It's a profound transition, honestly. The fundamental nature of business intelligence has completely moved from a static storage model to what we call active intelligence.
Active intelligence, okay.
Yeah, you are no longer just hoarding data in a warehouse, waiting for a human to sit down and write a manual query. The system itself is constantly working, constantly scanning, and anticipating what's next.
And that dynamic is basically our mission for this deep dive today.
Yeah.
We are exploring the massive, explosive impact of AI analytics as we look toward 2026.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to cover the entire spectrum here, from the mechanics of why old-school analytics failed us, to the specific types of AI tools operating right now, the major platforms dominating the market, and of course, the undeniable financial reality of adopting this technology.
Which is huge.
It is. Consider this a comprehensive breakdown on how you turn overwhelming information into real-time autonomous intelligence, and we're going to do it without getting buried in the technical jargon.
Well, to ground this in reality, I think we have to look at the sheer scale of adoption first. We are currently seeing over 70% of enterprises integrating AI analytics into their daily business workflows.
Over 70%, wait, really?
Yes, over 70%. This is not a pilot phase for early adopters anymore, It is the baseline standard for operating a modern enterprise.
Wow.
And the global market trajectory completely reflects this stampede. I mean, we are looking at a market expanding from $22 billion in 2024 to a projected $80 billion by 2030.
That is wild.
Yeah, it's a massive 24% compound annual growth rate.
Right, and the 24% annual growth rate is just massive. That usually only happens when a technology solves a truly catastrophic pain point,
Exactly.
So to understand why businesses are just pouring billions into this, I think we need to clearly separate the old way of doing things from this new AI-driven approach.
Right. Well, the core difference really lies in the objective of the software itself. Traditional analytics was entirely what we call descriptive.
Okay, meaning it just describes what happened.
Exactly. It operated on structured data, so meaning neat rows and columns in spreadsheets or, relational databases. Its singular job was just to tell you what happened in the past. You had to manually construct a query, and then days later, you'd receive this static report. It would confirm that your supply chain slowed down by 15% last quarter, but it possessed absolutely no mechanism to explain why, nor could it suggest how to fix it.
It's basically like getting an itemized receipt after a very expensive, terrible dinner.
That is a great way to put it, yeah.
I mean, it tells you exactly what you just spent, down to the penny, but the money's already gone and the night is over. You can't change it.
Exactly.
Whereas AI analytics feels more like having, a brilliant financial advisor sitting at the table with you, like physically knocking the expensive wine menu out of your hand before you even order, because they understand your budget constraints for the month.
Yes, that is a much more accurate way to visualize the mechanism. AI analytics introduces predictive capabilities, so it's calculating what will happen based on current trajectories.
Right.
And then it introduces prescriptive capabilities, computing the optimal action you should actually take right now.
Which is the game changer.
Oh, absolutely. Furthermore, it completely breaks free from the constraints of spreadsheets. It processes unstructured data. We are talking about computer vision, analyzing live factory floor video feeds, natural language processing, scanning thousands of customer service audio calls for Centa.
Audio calls, so it's listening to tone and everything.
Exactly. Parsing tone, complaints, everything. Plus live telemetry from IoT sensors on shipping containers, and it synthesizes all of that in real time.
Okay, but that brings up a massive tension that I think a lot of professionals listening are feeling right now.
Mm-hmm.
If an AI system is operating as a 24/7 data scientist inside an enterprise, ingesting video, audio, and sensor data, spotting the risks, and prescribing the exact strategy to take what happens to the human analyst,
That's the big question.
Right. Does this just render them completely obsolete, or are we looking at more of a, I don't know, a job description change?
The data strongly points to a profound evolution of the role rather than an elimination. Because look, an algorithm is incredibly efficient at math and pattern recognition.
Sure.
But it completely lacks the capacity for context, relationship management, and, abstract strategic vision. The AI handles the computational heavy lifting.
So it does the grunt work.
Exactly. The human transitions from being a mere number cruncher who just builds reports to a strategic architect.
Ah, I like that. Strategic architect.
Right, because the analyst takes that prescriptive recommendation from the AI, say, an aggressive localized price drop, and filters it through brand values, long-term market positioning, and complex vendor relationships that an algorithm simply cannot fully weigh.
So the human essentially becomes the editor and the strategist, rather than just the calculator.
Precisely.
Well, now that we understand the active nature of this intelligence, let's look at how these systems actually operate under the hood. Let's kind of map out the AI analytics ecosystem and look at the functional layers that make this happen.
Okay, so the ecosystem is basically built on a progression of analytical depth. The first layer is diagnostic analytics. This doesn't just show a drop in metrics, it uncovers the actual causality. Let's say your e-commerce conversion rate just plummets in one specific zip code.
Oh.
A diagnostic tool analyzes every variable instantly to tell you why, identifying that, say, a localized payment gateway outage coincided exactly with a competitor launching a hyper-targeted ad campaign in that same exact area.
Wow, so it finds the needle in the haystack automatically.
Precisely. And then the next layer is predictive analytics, which is pure forecasting. It uses historical patterns to anticipate future events.
So keeping with that same e-commerce example.
Yeah, in that same example, predictive models will analyze user behavior metrics, how long they hover over a checkout button, their past purchase frequency to forecast exactly which high-value customers are mathematically most likely to abandon the brand next quarter.
But knowing they might leave is really only half the battle, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the next step is prescriptive analytics, which is where I think the true paradigm shift really lives.
Prescriptive analytics is the engine of action. It takes the diagnostic why and the predictive what's next and calculates the absolute optimal response.
It tells you what to do.
Literally. It will tell the retailer to retain this specific cohort of customers without destroying your profit margin, offer them a 12% discount on shipping, delivered via email at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. It actually prescribes the cure.
That is wild. And to make all of this accessible, you have automated analytics and visualization tools layered on top of that, right?
Exactly.
And these aren't just your standard static charts. These are self-updating dynamic dashboards that detect anomalies in the background and literally push alerts to your phone before a minor issue becomes a quarterly loss.
Yeah, it's proactive.
Right. And if you add natural language processing, or NLP, to the mix, the accessibility completely changes. Non-technical executives can literally just type, which product category is dragging down our margins in Europe this week?
Just in plain English.
Just in plain English. And the NLP engine translates that sentence into a complex database query, builds the visualization, and just delivers the answer.
It's incredible. And when you look at how this functional ecosystem is deployed across the enterprise landscape, you start to see a few dominant platforms.
Like who?
Well, Microsoft Power BI and Tableau are the current heavyweights for visual interactive intelligence. They have deep AI integration designed to automatically detect those anomalies and project trend lines directly on the visual interface.
And if you are looking at customer journeys and marketing performance, Google Analytics 4 is essentially the industry standard right now.
Oh, without a doubt.
It heavily utilizes behavioral modeling to fill in data gaps when users opt out of cookies, which makes its predictive churn models incredibly robust.
Yeah, and for organizations dealing with massive multi-source data sets and really complex regulatory environments like finance and healthcare, IBM Watson and SAS provide the necessary enterprise-grade infrastructure and deep risk modeling.
Right, you need that heavy-duty security there.
Exactly. Meanwhile, in the CRM and sales operations space, Salesforce Einstein has really become the benchmark for predictive pipeline management. It automatically scores leads based on their mathematical likelihood to close.
But sitting above all these distinct specialized platforms is the massive, unavoidable wave of generative AI.
Oh, yeah. Generative AI models like ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, and Claude, they serve as the ultimate interface layer now.
Meaning they translate it all.
Exactly. The core platforms we just mentioned perform the rigorous mathematical modeling, but generative AI translates it. It can ingest a dense 50-page prescriptive data model from Watson and instantly generate a concise, highly readable 2-page executive brief.
That saves so much time.
It does. It can even generate the Python or SQL code required to connect a new unstructured data source to your warehouse. It basically bridges the gap between complex mathematical outputs and human action.
Okay, wait, but if these major platforms like Salesforce, Einstein, and Microsoft Power BI are so incredibly powerful and generative AI can translate everything for us, why do we need anything else?
What do you mean?
Well, can't a business just buy off-the-shelf software and be done with it? Like, where is the actual gap in the market here?
The gap is execution. Look, buying a state-of-the-art kitchen doesn't mean you have a chef to cook the meal.
Okay, that makes sense.
An analytics platform, no matter how advanced, primarily gives you a highly intelligent dashboard. It tells you what to do. But an autonomous agent actually executes the workflow based on the insights from that dashboard. That is the critical distinction between just observation and autonomous action.
And, that transition from observation to actual execution is exactly what we at Kanerika focus on.
Precisely.
We at Kanerika don't just use commercial platforms to build pretty dashboards. We deploy autonomous AI agents specifically engineered to execute complex enterprise tasks. We have basically built a dedicated digital task force within our AI suite.
It is a fundamentally different approach to business intelligence. Let's look at the actual mechanics of those agents we've built.
Yeah, let's run through them. So first in our suite is Carl. Carl is our data insights agent. He doesn't wait for a weekly reporting cycle.
No, Carl is constantly on.
Right. Carl continuously monitors live data streams across the organization, identifies emerging trends using continuous rather than batch processing, and pushes actionable insights directly to decision makers before they even know to ask the question.
And then you have DocGPT, which is our document intelligence agent. Enterprises have massive repositories of unstructured knowledge just buried in PDFs, historical contracts, and technical manuals.
It's usually a nightmare to find anything.
Exactly. But DocGPT doesn't just use basic keyword matching. It utilizes vector databases and semantic understanding to instantly retrieve precise procedural answers from vast archives. It essentially turns a static corporate archive into a highly conversational, instant recall knowledge base.
And for our legal and compliance workflows, we deploy Alan. Alan is our AI legal summarizer. Usually, a paralegal might spend 3 days reading a dense 200-page vendor agreement.
At least 3 days, yeah.
Right. Well, Alan processes the entire document in seconds. But he doesn't just skim for words. He analyzes the semantic relationships between clauses, comparing them against the company's standard risk templates to instantly highlight hidden liabilities and non-standard indemnification clauses.
It's a massive risk reducer. We also heavily rely on Mike, the AI quantitative proofreader.
Oh, Mike is a lifesaver.
Truly. When human analysts stare at massive financial reconciliation spreadsheets for 8 hours, their eyes glaze over and arithmetic errors just slip through.
It's unavoidable. Human fatigue is real.
Right. But Mike cross-references multidimensional arrays and cell logic instantly. He identifies broken formulas and subtle quantitative inconsistencies that human fatigue inevitably misses.
And perhaps the most critical from a strict security standpoint is Susan. Susan is our AI PII redactor.
Susan's mechanism is absolutely vital. Older redaction software simply look for rigid patterns, like, a 9-digit format for a social security number.
Which misses a lot of stuff.
It misses so much. But Susan uses contextual AI and named entity recognition. She actually understands when a random, unformatted string of text in a customer service transcript is actually a patient's home address or a specific medical condition.
So she catches the nuance.
Exactly. She automatically redacts that sensitive, personally identifiable information before the data set is ever shared internally or pushed to a wider analytics engine.
Okay, I have to interject here. Because if I am a chief information officer listening to this, my blood pressure is probably rising a bit.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Right, because we at Kanerika built this incredible digital task force with Carl, Susan, and the rest. But how does a business integrate these highly active autonomous agents without completely disrupting their current legacy operations and just causing absolute chaos for their IT department?
It is the most critical hurdle for any enterprise adoption. You cannot simply drop an active AI agent into a fragile, siloed legacy system and expect it to function.
It would break everything.
It will completely break the system. We at Kanerika approach this by focusing entirely on the underlying data infrastructure first. We utilize unified environments like Microsoft Fabric, which consolidates the entire analytics infrastructure from data movement to data science end to end.
And we pair that with the FLAP platform, which is our proprietary low-code, no-code data ops platform.
Exactly. FLAP automatically handles the complex data pipelines and orchestration. By building on these unified platforms, the AI agents integrate smoothly.
So it's not a tear-down situation.
No, it is never a chaotic rip and replace of existing systems. It is an intelligent, secure layer applied on top of them, governed by incredibly strict data quality protocols, so the agents only ever act on verified information.
Well, we have explored the tech, the agents, and the infrastructure. But let's bring this down to the absolute bottom line for you, the listener. What is the tangible financial implication for businesses that actually successfully adopt this?
That's what it all comes down to.
Why should a leader care about this beyond the sheer novelty of autonomous agents?
They should care, because the return on investment is immediate, it's measurable, and it is often staggering. Let's look at the hard realities across different sectors. In logistics and supply chain, companies deploying prescriptive analytics are seeing an average of $1.2 million in annual cost savings.
Wait, over $1 million just from logistical optimization? How does that actually happen on the ground?
It happens through dynamic, real-time adaptation. Imagine a massive weather event threatening a major shipping lane.
Okay.
The AI doesn't just warn the logistics manager. It autonomously reroutes the entire fleet to avoid the storm, recalculates the fuel optimization for the new routes, and simultaneously adjusts the labor schedules at the receiving warehouses because it knows the trucks will arrive exactly 4 hours late.
Wow.
That level of interconnected optimization is what saves millions.
That makes perfect sense when you lay it out like that.
Well,
What about industries that are constrained by heavy regulation, like fintech or health tech?
in those sectors, organizations are experiencing a 50% faster time to market for new products. Half the time. By using agents to automate their complex compliance workflows and modernize their data testing environments, they are literally cutting their development cycles in half. In an industry where being first to market completely dictates market share, that speed is invaluable.
And what about in retail? We always hear about personalization, but what is the actual measurable impact?
Retail and e-commerce organizations utilizing these tools are seeing a 28% boost in customer retention.
That's massive.
And this isn't just sending a generic birthday discount email. This is prescriptive analytics integrating data from multiple touchpoints, say, a customer's connected fitness app and their past purchase history, to realize a runner is reaching the end of their shoe's mileage lifespan.
Oh, that's clever.
Right, and it automatically offers them a targeted promotion for their exact preferred brand 2 weeks before they even realize they need them.
That level of anticipation is just incredible. And what about in the medical field?
Pharmaceuticals are achieving a 30% reduction in project timelines. By automating the data pipelines for clinical trials and accelerating the analysis of massive research data sets, they are safely bringing life-saving therapeutics to the public significantly faster.
So literally across the board, companies are saving millions, moving twice as fast, retaining their customer base, and accelerating vital research.
The broader implication here is inescapable. Integrating AI analytics is no longer a strategy for gaining a competitive edge. It is fundamentally a matter of competitive survival.
It's adapt or die, basically.
Essentially, yes. Organizations that refuse to automate their intelligence and rely on predictive models will simply operate too inefficiently and react way too slowly to survive against competitors whose systems optimize themselves in real time.
It is adapt or become entirely obsolete. The good news is, navigating this transition isn't something businesses have to figure out in isolation. We at Kanerika build these enterprise-ready solutions specifically to ensure the transition is seamless, governed, and highly profitable. And we know that none of this works without absolute trust. We at Kanerika are ISO 27701 and 27001 certified, ensuring that strict data privacy and security are completely hardwired into the foundation of everything we do.
It's the only way to do it safely.
Right. Whether we are managing complex cloud migrations on Azure or building highly scalable unified data landscapes on Databricks and Snowflake, we ensure your data is locked down and pristine before the AI ever even interacts with it.
Because security, governance, and pristine data quality are the bedrock. Without them, an AI is just a massive operational liability. But with them, it becomes the most powerful engine for exponential growth a company can possibly deploy.
Absolutely. Well, we have covered incredible ground today, from moving past the itemized receipt of traditional analytics to the brilliant financial advisor of AI, mapping the major platforms, and demonstrating how our own Kanerika AI task force executes real-world workflows.
It's been a great discussion, but, before we conclude, all of this mathematical precision raises a philosophical question that I think every leader needs to reflect on.
Okay, lay it on us.
We have detailed how AI prescriptive analytics can accurately dictate the optimal pricing strategy, forecast product demand, and predict exactly which marketing campaign will succeed. Right.
Yeah, the math is undeniably powerful.
But as that becomes the standard everywhere, what happens to the concept of human intuition, like the classic leadership gut feeling?
Oh, that is a fascinating conflict. If the machine is always mathematically right, where does instinct actually fit in?
Exactly. I mean, think about Steve Jobs launching the original iPhone. If he had relied on the predictive analytics and market data of the time, the math would have overwhelmingly prescribed building a phone with a physical plastic keyboard because that is what 99% of the market was currently buying.
Right, the data would have said the touchscreen was a terrible idea.
Exactly. So in a future where the AI almost always knows the statistically safest, most profitable bet, will following human intuition become a dangerous, fireable offense? Or, conversely, will the courage to completely defy the algorithm become the ultimate premium leadership skill that separates truly visionary disruptors from the rest of the pack?
Wow. I mean, if every single company in your industry is following the exact same perfect AI advice, the only possible way to disrupt the market is to do the one thing the AI tells you is mathematically risky.
Exactly.
That is a brilliant thought to leave on. Thank you all for joining us in this deep dive. Keep analyzing, keep innovating, and above all, keep questioning the world of data around you. Until next time.